All right, welcome back. It's so cool to have you with us as we continue our deep dive into the world of Wilhelm Reich.
Yeah,
Picking up where we left off last time, things are about to get even more interesting, I think.
definitely. Definitely. Reich's work is always full of surprises.
Last time we kind of just dipped our toes in, but today we're going all in on a question that came straight from our listeners.
Oh, nice.
Over on the Echoes of Insight channel, one of you asked, and it's a good one,
Yeah.
get ready for this, how does societal conditioning and shame around sexuality
Hmm.
block your ability to fully surrender and achieve
Right.
a truly liberating, get ready for this word, orgasmic state?
Wow, that's getting right to the heart of it, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I first saw this question, I thought, whoa, this is heavy stuff.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's a question that I think a lot of people grapple with,
For sure.
maybe even without realizing it.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you can help break this down for us.
Sure. I think to understand this question, we really need to grasp one of Reich's central concepts.
Okay, lay it on us.
He called it orgastic potency.
Orgastic potency. So is this like, some kind of superpower?
Haha. Well, in a way, maybe, but it's not about, just the physical act itself.
Right, so it's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's about a much deeper level of surrender, of letting go, and of fully experiencing pleasure without holding back.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but is it really that simple?
If only it were. But Reich believed that for many people, this ability to fully let go is blocked by something he called character armor.
Okay, hold on, character armor. So what are we talking about here? Are we all knights in shining armor?
Haha, not quite. Think of it more like this, think of all those messages we get from society about how we should behave, especially when it comes to sex.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Tons of those.
Right. Don't be too loud. Don't be too forward.
Sex is bad.
Exactly. Sex is shameful.
Ugh. Yeah, I think we've all heard those messages before, but what does this have to do with armor?
Well, Reich believed that all of those messages, they get internalized. And then, get this, they can actually manifest as tension in our bodies.
Whoa. Really? It's like we're building up walls inside ourselves, holding ourselves back from experiencing pleasure?
It's like that, yeah. It's like putting on a suit of armor and then trying to dance.
Makes sense. You'd be pretty stiff and awkward. So how does this armor, this tension actually get built up?
Well, Reich believed that it often starts very early in life. You know how we're always telling kids to control their bodies and their emotions?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sit still, don't cry, be quiet, all of that.
I mean, you got to keep kids under control, right?
Of course, but think about what those messages are actually teaching us.
To suppress our natural impulses.
Exactly. And Reich saw this as the foundation of character armor. As we grow up, all those messages about controlling ourselves, they get layered with all these societal norms and expectations, especially around sex.
So, it's not just about our childhoods. It's about all these external forces shaping how we experience ourselves and our bodies.
Right. And I think that's where those societal messages about sex being bad or shameful, that's where they really start to take hold.
So how does all of this actually play out? I mean, is it really as simple as we tense up certain muscles and then boom, no more good feelings?
Well, it's a little more complex than that. Remember, Reich was a psychoanalyst, so he was looking at this from a psychological perspective, too.
Okay, so there's more going on here than just physical tension.
Right. He believed that those societal messages, they create anxiety and fear around sex, which can then literally be stored in the body as tension.
So like a mind-body connection. Our thoughts and feelings about sex are actually affecting our physical ability to enjoy it.
Precisely. Reich believed that the body and mind are totally inseparable.
Yo, okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
It's pretty wild when you think about it, right? And it makes you wonder how much of our difficulty with intimacy, not just the sexual kind, but all kinds of intimacy stems from this armor we've built up over time.
Absolutely. And remember, Reich wasn't just talking about people who've experienced explicit trauma or abuse. He believed that even those subtle messages from society, the kind that we all absorb, can contribute to this armoring process.
So basically, we're all walking around with some level of this armor.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
This is definitely giving me a lot to think about. So we've got this character armor that we've built up, but is there any hope for us? Can we actually break free from it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that we're going to explore more deeply in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get really interesting.
Absolutely.
All right, welcome back. We're diving even deeper now into Wilhelm Reich's ideas about character armor and how it can impact our ability to experience true pleasure and intimacy. And remember, we're exploring all of this because one of our awesome listeners on the Echoes of Insight channel asked how societal conditioning and shame around sexuality play into all of this.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great question, and we touched on how we build up this armor, but I'm still a little fuzzy on how it actually happens. Like, what's the process?
Well, think about it this way. Reich believed that as we internalize those messages from society about sex being bad or shameful, it creates this conflict inside us.
Okay, conflict. Between what?
Well, on one hand, we have this natural biological drive for pleasure and connection.
Right, that makes sense.
But then on the other hand, we have all these fears and anxieties that we've absorbed from our culture.
So it's like a constant tug of war going on inside us between our desire and our fear.
Exactly. And according to Reich, this conflict, it plays out in the body.
Okay, so how so?
He observed that people who were holding back sexually often had very specific patterns of muscular tension.
Interesting. Like what kind of pattern?
Well, for example, he noticed that people who are afraid to express anger, they might clench their jaws or tighten their fists.
Oh, wow. I do that all the time. Especially when I'm driving. I never realized they could be connected to, all this stuff about sex and shame.
Reich believed it's all connected. He thought that any emotion we repress, whether it's anger, sadness, or even joy, can get trapped in the body.
And that contributes to this character armor.
Exactly. So bringing it back to the listener's question, how would all this tension play out specifically in terms of sex?
Right. If someone has all this tension built up, would it make it hard to, have an orgasm?
It's not just about achieving orgasm, remember? It's about orgastic potency, that ability to fully surrender and let go.
Okay, right. Orgastic potency. But wouldn't tension make that harder?
Absolutely. Reich argued that if we're holding tension in our bodies, if we're not fully present in the moment, it's almost impossible to experience the full depth of pleasure that's possible.
You're listening to Echoes of Insight, where we dive deep into the topics shaping our world, from the planet and politics to health, consciousness, economy, and alternative lifestyles. If you're enjoying the journey, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast with others who love exploring new perspectives.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's like trying to dance when you're all stiff and tense. You might be able to move, but you're not going to be very graceful.
Exactly. And that's what Reich believed was happening with people who were blocked sexually. They might be able to have sex, even have orgasms, but it wouldn't be that truly liberating, ecstatic experience that he saw as a sign of health.
This is making me think about all the ways that we, especially women, are taught to control our bodies and be ladylike.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, don't be too loud, don't take up too much space, always be polite and accommodating. It's exhausting.
And it can really take a toll on our ability to connect with our bodies and our own desires. Reich was very interested in how societal norms around sexuality, especially for women, contributed to this whole armoring process.
So what did he believe was the solution? If we've built up all this armor over years and years, can we ever really get rid of it?
Reich believed it was possible to break free from it, but it required a deep and dedicated process of therapy.
What kind of therapy?
He developed a technique called Vegetal Therapy, which involved working directly with the body to release those muscular tensions.
Wait, so he actually touched his patients? I thought that was like a big no-no in therapy.
It was definitely controversial, but Reich believed that you couldn't just talk your way out of these deeply ingrained patterns. He would literally use his hands to massage and manipulate his patients' muscles.
Wow, that's pretty wild. And I'm guessing that's part of the reason why he got kicked out of the psychoanalytic establishment.
You could say that. Reich's ideas were way ahead of their time.
So even if we don't go to a Reichian therapist, are there things we can do on our own to loosen up a bit?
Absolutely. There are a lot of contemporary approaches to bodywork and therapy that draw inspiration from Reich's ideas.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, practices like yoga, dance, breath work, even certain types of massage can all help to increase body awareness and release tension.
All right, welcome back. As we wrap up our deep dive into Wilhelm Reich's world, I gotta say, this has been pretty mind-blowing.
It is pretty fascinating stuff.
It is. We've been talking about how societal conditioning, especially around sex,
Right.
can create this character armor that really messes with our ability to experience true pleasure.
Yeah, it's like we're putting up these barriers without even realizing it.
And we talked about how that armor isn't just like in our heads, it's actually physical tension in our bodies.
Right. It's in the way we move, the way we breathe, even the way we hold ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And before you mentioned things like yoga and dance could help, but how do those tie into all of this?
Well, Reich believed that to break free from this armor, we need to start by becoming more aware of our bodies.
Okay, so like more mindful.
Yeah, exactly. More mindful of how our bodies hold tension, where we feel blocked or restricted. He saw the body as a kind of map of our emotional history.
A map.
Yeah. He believed every knot, every tightness tells a story. And practices like yoga or dance, they encourage us to tune into those sensations, those stories our bodies are telling us.
So it's not just about stretching and getting flexible. It's about developing a deeper understanding of what's going on inside us.
Exactly. And that awareness, that ability to really feel our emotions without judgment, that's what's key to breaking free from this character armor.
So instead of trying to ignore those uncomfortable feelings, we need to actually lean into them, feel them in our bodies.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Reich believed that by allowing ourselves to fully experience our emotions, even the painful ones, we could release the energy that was trapped in those muscular tensions.
It's like if we're always trying to control everything, we're actually cutting ourselves off from a whole range of experiences, the good and the bad.
Right, and Reich felt that the suppression of emotions, especially around sexuality, had a huge impact, not just on us personally, but on society as a whole.
Okay, now we're going even deeper. How does personal sexual repression connect to societal issues?
Reich saw it as this kind of vicious cycle. He believed that when people are afraid to express their sexuality freely, it creates a whole culture of fear and repression, and that fear can be used to control people.
So basically, he's saying that sexual liberation is actually linked to social and political liberation.
That was a core part of his thinking, yeah. He saw the ability to experience pleasure not just sexually, but in all areas of life as a fundamental human right.
It's a pretty radical idea that something as personal as our sexuality could have such a big impact on the world.
It is radical, and as we've talked about, Reich's ideas were controversial, but they still resonate with a lot of people today who are searching for a more holistic way of understanding themselves.
I'll admit I'm still processing all of this. It's a lot to take in,
Yeah.
but it's definitely given me a new perspective.
That's what's so great about Reich's work. Even if you don't agree with everything he said, it makes you question things and explore the connections between our minds, our bodies, and the world around us.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? If someone's struggling with feeling blocked or inhibited, what can they do?
I think the first step is to just be curious about yourself. Notice where you hold tension, what emotions you might be avoiding, and try things that help you connect with your body.
Great advice. And, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. Don't underestimate the power of just becoming aware of these patterns. Awareness is always the first step.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Wilhelm Reich. It's been quite a journey. Huge thanks to everyone for listening and for all your awesome questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep them coming. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Echoes of Insight. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who loves exploring big ideas. Together, let's keep the conversation going. See you next time.